Welcome back to the saddest paleontology video of all time, and let's just continue on here because this video is incredibly long. We've got fundamental identity myths.
Extinct. Every textbook says dinosaurs died out 66 million years ago when that giant asteroid hit Earth. Right? But here's
the answer is yes and no. Non-avian dinosaurs went extinct, and as well as other creatures like pterosaurs, for example. However, dinosaurs themselves, avian dinosaurs, aka birds, they did not go extinct.
mind-blowing truth. Dinosaurs are everywhere. You probably saw at least 10 of them today. That's because birds aren't just related to dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs.
You've literally said that again. It's again and again and again and again and again, and it's just stating the obvious at this point. Okay, Captain Obvious.
Scientists have found that birds share specific skeletal features with dinosaur fossils, including that hole in the hip socket that defines all dinosaurs. When scientists tested protein sequences from T-Rex bones, they found that T-Rex was more closely related to chickens than to alligators.
Which also explains the phylogenetic tree, as though there's really not much it can do. Seriously.
Pigeon pooping on your car? Dinosaur. That chicken nugget you had for lunch? Dinosaur nugget. The only difference is that modern birds are the small, flying dinosaurs that survived when their bigger cousins got wiped out.
Correct. Fact yapping once again. 1 hour of dinosaur lies, 24 minutes in, and it's 71 minutes. It's 1 hour and 11 minutes and 14 seconds.
Every time you see a bird, you're literally watching a living dinosaur. But wait, what about all those other prehistoric creatures? You know, the ones with the weird sailing backs, or the flying reptiles, or the swimming monsters.
Swimming monsters. Man. They are still animals at the end. Don't call them monsters.
Here's where toys and movies really mess up. Not everything big, prehistoric, and scary was a dinosaur. Take the Metrodon, that sailback creature everyone puts in dinosaur toy sets.
And the Dimetrodon is not a dinosaur. Man. Dimetrodon being a dinosaur is just an incredibly common misconception even amongst today. It's probably only exacerbated because of Jurassic World Dominion.
Lived millions of years before dinosaurs even existed. Actually more closely related to mammals, like us, than to any dinosaur. Those flying pterosaurs from Jurassic Park, they're flying reptiles that evolved separately. And those giant sea monsters, creatures like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs were more reptiles.
Yes. Man. There's really not much to say here.
Totally different from dinosaurs. True dinosaurs were land animals with specific features like upright legs under their bodies. It's like
how about those ceratopsians and Ankylosaur sauropods, etc.?
a whale, a fish, just because it swims. Completely different animals. Now, if you're shocked that chickens are dinosaurs, wait and see what T-Rex actually looked like with its fabulous feather coat.
It did not look like the Vastatosaurus rex as shown here. Vastatosaurus rex is a fictional animal that's supposedly an evolution of the T-Rex, but then again, it's fictional, so it really just falls apart when you think about it, and when you just put it in a supposedly educational paleontology video like this.
Remember I was talking about those green scaly dinosaurs that every movie and toy has? Yeah, that's about as accurate as giving a penguin shark teeth. The truth about what dinosaurs actually look like might be the biggest plot twist in science history. Since the 1990s, paleontologists have discovered hundreds of dinosaur fossils with clear impressions of feathers, especially in China. These weren't just a few weird fluffy dinosaurs either. We're talking about a huge number of species, particularly among the theropods, which
Look at this. Particularly among theropods, yes, correct. The majority, basically every single feathered dinosaur is a theropod, but Stegosaurus isn't.
T-Rex and Velociraptor.
Stegosaurus has those filaments.
Take Eutyrannus, a relative of the T-Rex. This 30-foot predator was completely covered in feathers like a massive, terrifying chicken. Even smaller dinosaurs like Sinoraptorix had a coat of...
It's called a Spinosauropteryx. Sinosauropteryx. Do at least a little bit of research when it comes to these videos. These mistakes are just getting old super fast. It's not even funny at this point.
Proto-feathers, kind of like dinosaur down. Scientists think these feathers first evolved for insulation or showing off to potential mates, way before birds used them flying. And it wasn't just small dinosaurs or meat eaters either. We found evidence of feather-like structures on plant eaters like
Stegosaurus, too.
So next time you see a scaly velociraptor in a movie, just know you're actually looking at a naked dinosaur. It would be like showing humans without skin, technically part of our anatomy, but not how we're supposed to look. But wait, it gets even better. Those dull gray and green dinosaurs you grew up with, pure imagination. Scientists can actually tell what color dinosaurs were by examining microscopic structures called melanosomes in fossil feathers.
So yeah, dinosaurs were incredibly colorful. Much more colorful than previously anticipated. So, yeah, there's really... then again, there's not much else to say here.
Tiny color-producing capsules survived for millions of years. Thanks to this discovery, we know that the Microraptor had iridescent black feathers that shimmered like a crow's.
They were more so slightly blue, from what I remember. But definitely not super light blue, like in some dinosaur games and in Origins Explained.
Had a striking pattern of black, white, and reddish-brown feathers. Spinosnack had a striped tail and a raccoon-like mask. Some dinosaurs even had counter-shading, darker on top, lighter underneath, just like modern animals use for camouflage. The dinosaur world wasn't just feathery, it was a rainbow explosion of color. T-Rex might have had bright patches for display or patterns for camouflage.
But then again, there's that thing where more colors doesn't necessarily mean better, because more colors doesn't necessarily mean better because ambushes might be less effective when an animal is this showy in terms of color. Like, take for example let's just compare that to English soldiers when they were redcoats, when they wore a lot of red coats versus when they wore khaki, and khaki is just better for camouflaging, and red coats just incredibly showy and just gives them away, gives their gives their locations away, and they would just get peppered down. And so khaki was much more practical for camouflage, so that enemies don't see the soldiers coming. Well, they're less likely to see the soldiers coming.
The prehistoric world looked more like a bird sanctuary than the drab reptile house we've been imagining in Jurassic Park. Hollywood seriously needs to update its graphics department. But now that you're picturing T-Rex as a giant rainbow chicken,
Giant rainbow chicken. Is it reference from T-Rex, An Evolutionary Journey?
Another myth about how these creatures actually moved. You know those old school museum displays of dinosaurs dragging their tails on the ground? Total garbage.
I think you mentioned that earlier. So what's the point of doing that again? My only theory is that it's just going to earn you more cash. That's it.
Talk dinosaur tails. For decades, artists and museums showed dinosaurs with their massive tails dragging on the ground like giant lizards. It seemed to make sense. Those tails were huge, but when scientists studied fossil trackways, which are actual dinosaur footprints preserved in stone, they noticed something weird. There were no tail drag marks. None. Zero.
Whatever.
Thousands of dinosaur tracks discovered worldwide. We don't see evidence of tails dragging. What we do see are footprints from animals balanced perfectly on their legs. It's because dinosaurs actually held their tails straight out behind them, as a counterbalance to their heavy bodies and heads. Think about it like a seesaw. If you've got a heavy head up front, you need weight in the back to balance. Dinosaurs use their muscular tails as natural balance beams, keeping them horizontal and off the ground. This made them way more agile and efficient when moving. And speaking of wrong moves, let's talk about T-Rex's ridiculous kangaroo pose.
Yeah, T-Rex being a kangaroo, it's just completely ridiculous. T-Rex having kangaroo posture at least. And when it comes to the grand scheme of things, Brightside still just used an upright post for their Giganotosaurus. For Archaeopteryx rendition. It's just absolutely monster. It's just absolutely dumb. And that Giga is just it also broke its own skeleton when falling over. So it's supposed to just die. No offense, by the way.
Museum displays show T-Rex standing almost upright, with its tail on the ground almost like a third leg. Some even put it in a Godzilla-like posture. This made for scary movie monsters, but terrible science. Modern studies of T-Rex skeletons show its spine was meant to be horizontal.
Yet you're showing what seems to be an Allosaurus instead of a T-Rex. Mind you, this is supposedly educational, and of course, it's just turning into gigantic slop. Slop every single time. Slop everywhere, slop everywhere. Man. Not good at all.
The backbone, hip structure, and skull all line up in a way that only works if the dinosaur is balanced horizontally over its legs, with the tail extending straight back. Forcing a T-Rex into that upright posture would be like making you walk around with your spine bent 90 degrees. Painful and impossible. The real T-Rex walked with its body parallel to the ground, more like a giant bird than a kangaroo or a lizard. This was much more stable and
commonly known facts that it's just consumer content. What target demographic is this video for? It's not even for kids. It's just for I don't want to say it because I don't want YouTube to demonetize me.
For a predator weighing several tons. Think of it this way. T-Rex wasn't some slow tail-dragging monster. It was a perfectly balanced killing
machine.
With a body designed for efficient movement. Those old museum displays weren't just wrong, they were physically impossible. If Hollywood messed up something as basic as how dinosaurs stood, imagine what they got wrong about T-Rex's senses in hunting. So remember that scene in Jurassic Park where they say, "Don't move. T-Rex can't see if you don't move."
Which in reality the T-Rex can still see you when moving. Yeah.
That might be the biggest lie Hollywood ever told about dinosaurs. If you actually tried the stand still trick with a real T-Rex, you'd become dino dinner faster than you could say clever girl.
Because the T-Rex, in the end, the T-Rex is a predator, and once it smells meat, even if it doesn't move, it's going to eat it. It's going to eat meat. Humans are meat.
T-Rex had some of the best vision in the dinosaur world. Scientists studying T-Rex skulls found it had massive eye sockets the size of grapefruits. Those huge eyes weren't just for show. They gave T-Rex incredible vision that would put your eyesight to shame. T-Rex had forward-facing eyes like a hawk, giving it excellent depth perception for judging distances.
Perfect for when it comes to ambushing and attacking weak spots of large herbivores in the environment, and even smaller ones. Like smaller ones, juvenile T-Rexes hunting. It's a bit more debatable, but larger ones, they definitely precisely attacked those the Triceratops and Pterosaurus.
When you're trying to chomp moving prey. But this is where it gets interesting. Studies suggest T-Rex's visual acuity was up to 13 times better than humans. That means it could distinguish objects with incredible precision, possibly even better than modern eagles and hawks. It could accurately judge exactly how far away you were while standing perfectly still. So the next time someone tells you to stand still around a T-Rex, remember, that's like trying to hide from an eagle by freezing in an open field. Good luck with that strategy. But that's not the only T-Rex myth that science has crushed. Some paleontologists once suggested that T-Rex was just a giant scavenger.
Jack Horner. Like, Jack Horner can be hit or miss. The Metasaur theory is a hit. The Digimoloch and Dracorex being juvenile Pachycephalosaurus is also a hit. The T-Rex scavenger theory, though, oh my god, it missed harder than Mini Lad missed children's.
And clumsy to hunt live prey. They claimed it just bullied smaller predators away from their kills.
There are healed bite marks, showing that T-Rex had failed hunts.
Prehistoric vulture with
You can't heal your dead.
The evidence completely destroys this idea. T-Rex had a bone-crushing bite force powerful enough to shatter the bones of its prey.
If you want to disprove the T-Rex scavenger theory, just show a bunch of healed bite marks from Tyrannosaurs on different herbivores, like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus.
An adaptation you need for eating already dead animals. Even more convincing, scientists have found healed T-Rex bite marks on Triceratops and Edmontosaurus bones, which is absolute proof that the T-Rex hunted live animals. T-Rex was the ultimate apex predator of its time.
T-Rex was the apex predator of its environment. As long as, they're adults. Adult T-Rexes are apex predators of their environment. Juvenile Rexes had to compete with others like the Archaeopteryx in order to hunt stuff like Ornithopod and Pachycephalosaurus.
Lions or wolves. It probably scavenged when convenient. Hey, like free food is free food. But make no mistake, it was a killer, not just a cleanup crew. But here's what most people miss about it. T-Rex was a super powerful predator with eagle vision. But what you've heard about how fast it could run will make your jaw drop. Remember that Jurassic Park scene with the Jeep chase? It's time for a reality check on T-Rex speed. So how fast could T-Rex actually run? The answer isn't as simple as slow or fast. For years, scientists argued about this. Some said a creature so massive could barely manage a quick walk, while others claimed it could sprint like a giant, terrifying ostrich.
Giant ostrich theory. Oh man, I don't think the T-Rex ran that fast. T-Rex was more like a slow but agile predator.
Is somewhere in the middle. T-Rex wasn't a slowpoke, but it definitely wasn't chasing down jeeps at highway speeds either. Modern studies looking at leg bones, muscle attachments, and body weight suggest T-Rex could reach speeds between 10 to 25 miles per hour. Think somewhere between a jogging human and a running elephant. That's pretty fast to catch prey like Triceratops.
Not like it has to catch prey anyways. By chasing them, it can just ambush prey and then go for the weak spots, catch them by surprise, and then just chomp down on them with the ridiculous bite force.
Built dinosaurs, which weren't exactly speed demons themselves. And baby T-Rexes, they were built lighter and probably much faster than the adults. So could you outrun a T-Rex? Maybe, if you're a serious athlete. The average person? Not a chance. It would catch you before you could even finish screaming. Now, let's talk about another bizarre dinosaur movement myth.
More T-Rex movement myths. Wow. Let's go back. Sorry.
The bunny hands problem. Take a look at most dinosaur toys, pictures in books, and even museum displays, and you'll see carnivorous dinosaurs with their hands facing palms down, like they're ready to push their triceps in the gym. Scientists call this the broken wrist pose.
Yes. It's just really disheartening to look at because these dinosaurs, they don't have to commit self-harm and mutilation all the time. Why don't their wrists just face inward, like they're clapping, instead of just going down, just they're being broken in general? It's just really sad to see, and incredibly heartbreaking. This is hurting my soul all the time.
Completely impossible. Here's the deal. Theropod dinosaurs physically couldn't rotate their wrists that way. Their anatomy prevented it. Forcing a T-Rex hand into that position would be like twisting your arm until something snaps. Instead, their hands naturally face each other, palms inward, like they were about to clap. Think of it as a permanent give me a high five position. This makes sense for grabbing prey, not pushing things around. Every time.
Not like the T-Rex would grab prey anyways. The T-Rex would just simply use its Now that the T-Rex grab prey using its arms, the T-Rex will just grab its prey using its jaws.
The
T-Rex's ridiculously large head as well.
toy with downward-facing palms, that dinosaur has dislocated wrists. Ouch. This might seem like a small detail, but it completely changes how we understand dinosaur behavior. Those mighty arms weren't for pushing, they were for grabbing and holding. But here's what...
At this point, just plucking a Spinosaurus or something. They actually probably use their arms to grab and all that.
People miss. The dinosaur lies get even weirder when we look at bizarre myths about what specific dinosaurs could actually do with their fancy head. Have you ever seen the...
What? Okay, fancy what?
People miss. The dinosaur lies get even weirder when we look at bizarre myths about what specific dinosaurs could actually do with their fancy headgear. Seen those giant long-necked dinosaurs like Brachiosaurus with nostrils on top of their heads? That bizarre feature shows up in books, movies, and museum displays.
Not like the Brachiosaurus would use them as a weapon anyway. The Brachiosaurus would just simply use its massive weight and legs to crush an opponent.
It's completely made up. For decades, scientists thought sauropods had their nostrils on top of their heads because that's where the large hole is in their skull. Early paleontologists even suggested they used them like snorkels when hanging out in deep water. But modern research tells a totally different story. When scientists studied the inside of sauropod skulls, they found tiny marks where blood vessels and nerves attached. These marks are always near the front of the snout, not on top of the head.
Man, that theory, that top of the head is disproven.
Almost every animal alive today, from birds to crocodiles, has its fleshy nostrils at the front of the face, regardless of where the bone opening is. The large opening on top wasn't a nostril at all. It was just the beginning of a bigger nasal cavity that...
It's a fenestra. So, fenestra, that is basically a air gap.
helped with cooling their massive bodies or making sounds.
Yes, okay. The fenestra also applies to basically every other dinosaur, for that matter.
Sauropods have their nostrils right at the front of their face, just like we do. And speaking of bizarre head features, let's talk about a Pterosaur, the duck-billed dinosaur with
Pterosaurolophus. Not Parasaurolophus, by the way. I almost mispronounced that as a Parasaurolophus, like in Clash of the Dinosaurs. Parasaurolophus. Have you forgotten about stuff like the Lambeosaurus, Centaurosaurus, Cretaceous, and even the Saurolophus? Just give them a bit more attention.
Huge curved tube on his head. Some truly wild theories suggest it used that crest as a snorkel for breathing underwater.
Still don't know what that crest was used for.
Including one creationist scientist actually proposed it could breathe fire like a...
This theory actually happened, by the way. But, of course, the Parasaurolophus did not breathe fire. And so, that theory is just done. It's gone. It's just incredibly obsolete now.
Dragon. Yeah, both ideas are hilariously wrong. For starters, the tube is completely closed at the end, so it would be the worst snorkel ever. And as for fire breathing, there's zero evidence of any mechanism that could produce flames. No animal alive today can breathe fire, and nothing in the Pterosaur's skull suggests it could either. The truth is much cooler, actually. The crest contained long, winding nasal passages that worked like a natural trumpet or trombone. Scientists who created computer models of the crest found it could produce deep, resonating sounds, perfect for communicating across long distances or attracting mates. Imagine a whole herd of these dinosaurs making low, booming calls that echo miles. The crest was basically a built-in instrument and a fancy billboard advertising, "Hey, check me out, potential mates." Now, if you think
Clash of Dinosaurs proposed that Parasaurolophus use its crest, uses sound waves to deter predators, which is absolutely and utterly dumb.
dinosaur nose myths are weird, wait till you hear how wrong we've been about where and how these massive creatures actually lived. Those massive long-necked dinosaurs.
Awesome bros think that they all just fight. P-Jits also believe they all just fight. They just treat paleontology as a survival game. Like in prior extinction. Path of Titans. Even the Isle to some extent.
Heavy to walk on land, right? That's why old books always showed Brontosaurus and friends hanging out in lakes and swamps using water to support their enormous weight. Well, spoiler alert, completely wrong. This idea was super popular in the early days of paleontology. Scientists looked at those giant sauropods weighing up to 70 tons and thought, no way these beasts could support themselves on land. Some even thought the high nostril position, which we just debunked, was like a built-in snorkel. And this is all part of the same theory. But actual evidence tells us sauropods were fully land-dwelling creatures.
Yeah.
Eggs were arranged in sturdy, column-like structures similar to modern elephants. Perfect.
Basically they're called foot pads, which are also present in the hooves of big hadrosaurs like the Dinosaurs and Ankylosaur.
Designed for supporting massive weight on solid ground. Their feet had special pad structures that worked like built-in shock absorbers, just like elephant feet today. The most convincing proof comes from fossil trackways, preserved footprints that show sauropods walking on dry land, not swimming or floating. These giants definitely visited water to drink or cool off, but they didn't need it to stay afloat. They were basically the prehistoric equivalent of elephants, but perfectly adapted for life on land.
But they're showing elephants on the water. What kind of contradiction is this supposed to be about? I don't know, and I don't want to know. There's really not much to say.
Well, too heavy for land myth is like saying elephants would collapse under their own weight without swimming pools. Speaking of dinosaurs in water, let's talk about Spinosaurus, the sailback predator that's been rewritten more times than a Hollywood script. Recent discoveries had some scientists claiming Spinosaurus was basically a dinosaur crocodile, actively chasing prey underwater like an Olympic swimmer. Evidence seemed impressive: dense bones like penguin bones, a paddle-like tail, crocodile-like teeth, and a body shape unlike other dinosaurs.
Spinosaurs likely hunted in similar fashion to storks. So, yeah, they just wade in the water. They are definitely better at swimming than most other dinosaurs, though.
Declared it the first fully aquatic dinosaur, but not so fast.
Spinosaurus is not fully aquatic. It is semi-aquatic. Enough said.
Research shows Spinosaurus would have been a terrible swimmer if it only lived in water. Its massive sail would have created huge drag underwater, making it unstable and slow. Its tail can generate enough power for chasing fish, and its lungs would have made it too buoyant to easily dive. In reality, Spinosaurus is more like a giant heron or a bear fishing at a riverbank, a wading predator that hunted from the shoreline, occasionally swimming in at the surface, but not diving to chase prey underwater. Still incredibly specialized for a dinosaur, just not the underwater pursuit machine some claimed. So yes, it was deadly in the water, but only on the shore. But that brings me to another myth. Do you think dinosaurs were just mindless eating machines? Well, the truth of
Dinosaurs are not mindless eating machines. They are animals. They can think for themselves. Their ecosystems just also show that they are just regular animals that don't know right or wrong and that aren't feral or anything.
dinosaur intelligence and parenting skills would completely change how you see these ancient animals.
Dinosaurs in the end are just regular animals. Walking with Dinosaurs depicted that incredibly well. As well as prehistoric plant. Walking with Dinosaurs is definitely more entertaining than Prehistoric Planet. Prehistoric Planet is more accurate than Walking with Dinosaurs. But both successfully depict these dinosaurs as if they were actual animals and not movie monsters who just love fighting to the death for whatever reason. For absolutely no reason other than to satisfy George Blazing or like Clash of the Dinosaur stuff.
Still use the word dinosaur as an insult for something outdated or stupid. But calling someone a dinosaur because they're dumb, science says that's actually pretty stupid itself. For decades, people thought dinosaurs were just giant lizards with walnut-sized brains. Slow, dumb, and doomed to extinction because they couldn't adapt. This
Stegosaurs.
myth partially came from creatures like Stegosaurus, which had a brain roughly the size of a dog's despite weighing as much as a bus. But
They are. Even amongst ornithischians, stegosaurs are definitely not as smart as something like hadrosaurs or ceratopsians.
Dinosaur intelligence varied enormously. Some, particularly smaller theropods like troodontids and velociraptors, had relatively large brains compared to their body size.
Then again, I said that brain-to-body ratio is not the only thing that can be measured when it comes to determining a dinosaur's intelligence. You also have to account for the neuron density and all that. T-Rex wasn't as smart as a baboon, alright?
Their brain-to-body ratio approaches that of modern birds, which we know are pretty smart. Crows can solve puzzles, mockingbirds remember human faces for years, and parrots understand basic language. This is where it gets interesting though. Scientists have also found evidence of complex dinosaur behaviors, hunting in packs and living in herds with social structures. These aren't things...
Hunting in packs. There's still no evidence of dinosaurs actually hunting in packs. It's more so because of mobbing, in which these dinosaurs will attack at the same time, but they don't correlate. They don't coordinate strategies.
Stupid animals typically do. Now, were dinosaurs solving calculus problems or building dinosaur cities? No, but they weren't mindless eating machines either. They successfully dominated Earth for over 150 million years. That's about 149.9 million years longer than humans have existed. You don't rule the planet that long by being stupid. Speaking of smart behaviors, let's talk dinosaur parenting. Movies often show dinosaurs laying eggs and abandoning them, but that's another major myth.
How can that... Man, paleontology just comes up with the wildest stuff sometimes. In the end, these dinosaurs are animals, not... Man.
Montana, scientists discovered a nesting group of duck-billed dinosaurs they named Maiasaura, which literally means...
You said that earlier in the video, from what I remember, and so... Just saying it again, just for the runtime. I have to sit through this entirety of the video, okay?
Good mother lizard. These nests contain eggs, babies, and juveniles of different ages. The worn down teeth in the babies suggest parents were bringing food to the nest, which is basically dinosaur DoorDash. Even more amazing was the discovery of dinosaurs that died while sitting on their nests. Several Oviraptor fossils have been found in brooding position, literally giving their lives to protect their eggs from sandstorms or predators. Scientists have discovered extensive nesting colonies showing that many dinosaurs return to the same nesting sites year after year, just like modern birds. Some may have even nested in groups for protection, basically creating a prehistoric dinosaur daycare. This sophisticated parental care is light years away from the lay 'em and leave myth that we've been told. But now let's talk about our last two myths. We all know this.
Okay.
One day, a giant space rock smashed into Earth and boom, all the dinosaurs died instantly. Simple, right?
Another AI generated image, as you can see here. Like,
well, not exactly.
Well, the asteroid didn't immediately cause the extinction of non-avian dinosaurs. It's all those after effects, like a nuclear winter after the ashes just cover the whole sun. Ashes cover the whole sky, meaning that no sunlight can reach the Earth. That means plants cannot do photosynthesis, they die. Herbivores run out of food. Herbivores run out of plants to eat, they die. And then carnivores run out of herbivores to eat, they die.
Extinction story is way more complicated and even more terrifying. Yes, a massive asteroid did hit Earth about 66 million years ago, creating the crater we all know in modern-day Mexico. But that wasn't the only disaster happening. At the same time, some of the biggest volcanoes ever were erupting in what's now India, spewing out toxic gases and changing the climate even before the asteroid hit. And here's another shocker. The extinction wasn't instant. While the impact itself caused immediate devastation, with massive tsunamis, wildfires, and an impact winter where dust basically blocked the sun. And the full extinction process likely took thousands of years.
Yes. It's not instant, alright? This is not how nature works in general. This is not how extinction works in general. It's a gradual process. It's a slow and agonizing process.
Gets interesting though. You gotta think of it like a domino effect. First, plants couldn't grow without sunlight, then plant eaters starved, then the
Yes.
meat eaters that hunted them died out.
Yes.
The whole food web was collapsed step by step. It was a slow motion apocalypse. And it wasn't just bad luck. Some animal groups survived while others perished. Birds, which are avian dinosaurs, mammals, crocodiles, turtles, and many others made it through. It wasn't random. Certain adaptations helped some animals survive while others perished. Speaking of survival, let's talk about the biggest dinosaur myth.
If an animal was big enough, by the time the KVG extinction arrived, it's gone. No exceptions. There's a reason why every single animal that survived, every single animal that survived the KVG extinction event, well, land animals, at least, most of them, at least, there are several exceptions like Metsoya, was because they were small enough and they weren't really impacted as much
By Hollywood. The idea that we could clone dinosaurs from ancient DNA, like in Jurassic Park. In the movie,
which is completely and utterly dumb. And I think you mentioned that earlier. It's really stupid.
find dinosaur blood in mosquitoes trapped in amber, extract the DNA, and use it to clone extinct dinosaurs.
Man.
Sounds plausible enough that many people believe it could actually happen.
But of course, dinosaurs, non-avian dinosaurs, went extinct a whole long time ago. 66 million years ago is a long time. And by that time, basically every single DNA strand had been destroyed, decomposed, gone.
DNA starts breaking down immediately after death. Even under perfect conditions, DNA has a half-life. It breaks into smaller and smaller pieces over time. Scientists estimate that readable DNA sequences are completely gone after about 1 to 1.5 billion years max. Dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago. That's at least 65 billion years too late for viable DNA. So even the mosquitoes in amber wouldn't help. The DNA inside them would have degraded too.
Yes. I guess this is one of the more lesser known facts, so I'll just leave this guy alone when it comes to this fact.
A complete dinosaur genome from tiny fragments is mathematically impossible. But recently we did just clone direwolves. So
Which, those direwolves aren't actually direwolves. Man. The internet just oversimplifies everything.
never say never, although they're not a one-to-one clone of the direwolf, and it's also a much more recent animal that went extinct, so that's why they had enough DNA to make it. But who knows in the future what will happen. The closest we'll likely ever get to seeing real dinosaurs is by studying their living descendants, birds. So next time someone tells you Jurassic Park could really happen, just point to the pigeon outside your window and say,
birds are dinosaurs, literally.
that's as close as you're getting to a velociraptor.
The problem is Velociraptor is dromaeosaurid, and I don't think Velociraptor looks super close to a bird. I mean, it does look like a bird to a little bit of an extent, like a turkey, but like, man.
Dinosaur books you had as a kid? Well, like I said, they were lying to you. It started with the very first dinosaur scientists ever discovered. Back in the 1820s, a doctor named Gideon Mantell found some weird teeth and bones in England. He had no complete skeleton, just random parts. When he found a pointy bone spike, he thought that must be a horn that goes on its nose.
Man. Paleontology, man. Still super... When paleontology was at its infancy, there's really not much that people can think of. And so he just came up with absolutely ridiculous theories, like Harris breathing fire, for example. Creationism, everyone.
It made sense at the time. Rhino iguanas have nose horns, so why not this iguana-toothed dinosaur? They named it Iguanodon, and for over 50 years, every drawing showed it with a horn on its nose. But here's where it gets crazy. In 1878, miners in Belgium found a whole bunch of complete iguanodon skeletons. And guess what? That nose horn was actually a thumb spike. Imagine having a giant spike on your thumb. For 50 years, scientists had the dinosaur equivalent of putting your shoes on the wrong feet.
Of course.
But wait.
More like putting More like putting shoes on your nose. Sort of. When it comes to that iguanodon thing.
Worse, they basically put the dinosaur's thumb on its face. It's like if aliens found human skeletons and decided our thumbs belonged on our foreheads. But you think that thumb-nose mix-up was bad? Hold my prehistoric beer. Megalosaurus was the very first dinosaur ever named by science.
Correct. Second one is iguanodon. First one is the Megalosaurus. And I don't know why people just compare everything to T-Rex when they could just compare everything to the Megalosaurus. It's the first dinosaur to be named and to be described, and it's the epitome of an average theropod.
24, but they had almost nothing to work with. Just a piece of jawbone and some other fragments. So what did they think it looks like? They thought it looked like a massive four-legged lizard. They literally called it Great Lizard and thought it was just a scaled-up version of modern leopards. A huge, slow beast lumbering around on four legs.
Megalosaurus and iguanodon. Man, paleontology has come a long way since its very beginnings, and as well as the 1800s.
Famous scientist Richard Owen even built a life-sized model of it for the Crystal Palace in 1854, where thousands of people saw it and thought, yup, that's definitely what dinosaurs looked like. But imagine their surprise if they saw what we know today. Because Megalosaurus was actually a fierce two-legged predator. It stood upright on powerful back legs with a horizontal body balanced by its tail and had smaller arms. It's like if you thought a T-Rex was basically just a giant iguana. Not even close. Scientists figured this out when they found more complete skeletons of similar dinosaurs. The whole dinosaurs are giant lizards idea was completely wrong. And these embarrassing mistakes were just the beginning. Some dinosaur mix-ups were still messing with museum displays as well into the 1970s. Because imagine waking up tomorrow with someone else's head on your body. Because that's basically what happened to Apatosaurus for almost half a century.
What?
Museums across America. The Carnegie Museum of Natural History found an amazing Apatosaurus skeleton around 1909. Just one tiny problem. They couldn't find its head. Awkward.
Man. But they can speculate the Apatosaurus head. And it is more akin to that of a sauropod. And so, there's really not much to say here.
Well, what did they do about it? For years, they actually displayed this massive dinosaur without a head, because apparently a headless dinosaur was...
Man, paleontology. Back then they just assumed with absolutely crazy stuff, without actually taking into account speculation.
No dinosaur. But wait, it gets weirder. In 1934, they finally got tired of their headless dinosaur and put a head on it. Just one problem. They used the wrong head. Gave poor Apatosaurus a Chimaerosaurus skull, which is a completely different dinosaur. It's like putting a hippo's head on a giraffe and saying, close enough.
But the problem is the hippo and giraffe are both incredibly just distant compared to Apatosaurus and Chimaerosaurus. I'd more likely say that I'd probably say it looks something like putting a lion head on a gray wolf or something. It's probably more close to that.
This wasn't just one museum. This mistake spread everywhere afterwards. The truth didn't come out until the 1970s when scientists realized Apatosaurus actually had a much smaller, horse-like head. On October 20th, 1979, the Carnegie Museum finally gave Apatosaurus its real head back after 45 years of having an identity crisis. Imagine being arrested for breaking into your own house. Well, that's basically what happened to Oviraptor. In 1923, scientists found a dinosaur skeleton right next to a nest of eggs in Mongolia.
Of course, Oviraptor, name meaning egg thief, it was depicted as an egg stealer. Just steal eggs all the time. But of course, that behavior is just almost completely bogus. And so, and recent evidence also suggests the contrary, in which the Oviraptor was actually a good parent to its babies. So,
immediately assumed the worst. This dinosaur died while stealing and eating eggs from another dinosaur's nest. They even named it Oviraptor, which literally means egg thief. Talk about being framed. What was it actually doing though? Well, I'm about to tell you. For 75 years, Oviraptor had this terrible reputation. All the books called it a nest robber. Every museum display showed it sneaking around stealing eggs. Poor Oviraptor was the villain in every dinosaur story. But here's the twist that changes everything. In the 1990s, scientists found more nests with the exact same type of eggs. Inside those eggs, baby Oviraptors. This wasn't a criminal caught in the act. This was a parent protecting its own nest.
which is much more typical and realistic for animals like the Oviraptor. There is no logical way that they would want to steal eggs, because it's just not worth it. It's an energy waster in the end, and Oviraptors need to eat to replenish energy. They don't have to go long distances to steal eggs from other nests.
Original Oviraptor was likely sitting on its eggs, keeping them warm, maybe even dying in a sandstorm or refusing to abandon its babies. It's literally the most devoted dinosaur parent we know of, and we gave it a name that means egg thief. Talk about the worst case of a mistaken identity in history. Justice for the Oviraptor. Free my boy. Or my girl, I guess. At least these creatures were actual dinosaurs, unlike some imposters that have been fooling you for your entire life. Because when I was a kid, science books taught me that there were two main groups of meat-eating dinosaurs.
The Dimetrodon isn't a dinosaur, and Pteranodon is also not a dinosaur.
Big ones called Carnosaurs, and smaller ones called Coelurosaurs.
Coelurosaurs. And Dimetrodon doesn't even belong in any of them.
Simple, right?
It's a synapsid. I think a bunch of people also call Lystrosaurus a dinosaur because it has a saurus in its name, which it's not a dinosaur, by the way. Some people still claim it was a source of dinosaur. It's not.
If it was big and scary,
At least it isn't as ridiculous as that Leviathan, which, from what I remember, a channel called it a whale-like dinosaur.
it was a Carnosaur, Allosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Spinosaurus, Carnotaurus, all thrown in the same group because they were big predators. But modern science is a message for those old books. Yeah, that's not how evolution works. Here's the shocking truth. Tyrannosaurus rex isn't a carnosaur at all. It's actually a Coelurosaur, the
Coelurosaur.
same group as the small dinosaurs, and the same group that includes birds. True connoisseurs today include only Allosaurus and its close relatives.
And as well as Ceratosaurus. From what I remember, let's see. Allosaurs are definitely carnosaurs. There's a bunch of Carnosaurs as well. And Ceratosaurus doesn't even belong in any of them. That was my bad. So, yeah. Ceratosaurs, they don't belong in anything. They aren't even carnosaurs. Nothing.
Dinosaurs belongs to a completely different group, and Carnotaurus belongs to yet another separate branch. It's like if we were grouping lions,
It's a Ceratosaur.
bears, and hyenas together just because they're all big predators, when they're actually not closely related at all. These dinosaurs independently evolved to become large predators multiple times. Nature is way more complex and awesome than big scary dinosaurs go in group, small ones in another. Evolution doesn't work that way. It branches like a tree, not like your school's lunch menu categories. Now we know what isn't a dinosaur, let's talk about how dinosaurs actually functioned inside their scaly, or maybe not so scaly, bodies. Probably learned in school that mammals and birds are warm-blooded and reptiles and fish are cold-blooded, right?
Dinosaurs
Since
are also
dinosaurs look like reptiles, they must be cold-blooded too.
Dinosaurs are, birds are archosaurs, meaning that they belong in, meaning that they are, distant relatives of crocodilians. Yeah, crocodilians are cold-blooded, and birds are warm-blooded. Dinosaurs are probably more warm-blooded.
Simple, except it's not simple at all. It's actually one of the biggest oversimplifications in science ever. For decades, scientists have been fighting about whether dinosaurs were warm-blooded like birds or cold-blooded like lizards. And guess what? They were probably neither. Wait, what? Yeah, that's right. Modern research shows many dinosaurs were likely something in between, what scientists call mesotherms. Think of animals like tuna or great white sharks. They're warmer than the water around them, but don't maintain a perfect body temperature like we do. And those massive sauropods, the ones bigger than school buses, they stayed warm just because they were so huge. It's called
Y-Rex.
When you're that big, your body holds heat naturally. It's like how a cup of coffee cools down faster than a whole pot. Biggest revelation?
Oh, like a gigantic elephant, of course. Like Samson. Man, Samson literally just cooked himself from the inside out.
Different dinosaur groups probably had completely different metabolisms. Some more bird-like, some more reptile-like, and others something totally unique. That's because nature doesn't care about our simple categories. Dinosaurs were too busy being awesome to fit in our neat little boxes. And you might think dinosaurs grew steadily throughout their lives, just getting a little each year until they reached adults. Makes sense, right? Well,
the thing is, T-Rex, of course the T-Rex had a growth burst, and especially other tyrannosaurs as well.
did they really grow this way? Nope. When scientists cut open dinosaur bones, don't worry, they're fossils, they can see growth rings, kind of like tree rings, and what they found completely changed how we see dinosaur lives. Here's the mind-blowing part. Many dinosaurs had absolutely insane teenage growth spurts. We're talking T-Rex gaining up to 5 pounds per day during its teenage years. It's like if you grew from the size of a chicken to the size of a rhino in just a few years. Imagine how much food you'd have to eat to support that. And it wasn't just T-Rex. Scientists found that dinosaurs like Maiasaura would grow super fast during good times, then almost stop growing during tough seasons. Their bones literally record good years and bad years in them. Even weirder,
which is quite fascinating to hear. Of course, it also applies to a lot of other animals, like humans, for example. Humans can't grow. Humans generally grow a bit slower in their kid years. They grow fast when they're babies, but when they're kids, they plateau a little bit. But then at teenagers, they grow fast again, and adults, they peak.
different parts of their body
And their growth just stops.
at different rates. The Ceratopsian Plesiosaurus started life walking on 4 legs, but its back legs grew faster than its front legs, so adults walked on 2 legs. Their insides weren't what we thought, and neither were their outsides. Those iconic dinosaur features you recognize?
You're talking about a ceratopsian, but now you're showing a sauropod.
Yeah, they weren't what they seemed either. Because you know those awesome neck frills on Triceratops and other horned dinosaurs? The ones that look like built-in shields? Every dinosaur book says they evolved as armor against predators like T-Rex. It makes perfect sense, and it's probably wrong. I mean, Triceratops did have a solid frill that could have offered some protection.
It's also used for display purposes.
But most other ceratopsians, their frills were full of holes.
You showed a hadrosaur, it seems like.
And a useless shield has giant holes in it. It's like wearing a bulletproof vest made of Swiss cheese. Well, that's because the truth is way more interesting. Those frills were likely the dinosaur equivalent of peacock tails.
They were used for display. And yeah, I probably have to sit through a bit more.
Giant billboards for showing off to mates.
Yes. This is probably the most acceptable theory, that those frills were used for display. Of course, horns as well, and also territorial disputes. And they definitely were able to defend themselves. But of course, paleontology isn't just about fighting. It's about animal behavior. All right, ecology, how they interact with their surroundings.
Frills and horn patterns were wildly different between species, even ones that lived in the same places at the same time. If they were just for defense, they'd all look similar, but they were as unique as fingerprints. Even better evidence, the fancy frills only fully developed when the dinosaurs reached sexual maturity.
And of course, there are a bunch of ceratopsians without those nose horns, like the Pachyrhinosaurus, and there are ceratopsians with those nose horns aren't really built for combat, like the Ionosaurus.
Exactly when they need to start attracting mates or intimidating rivals. Scientists think these thrills might have been covered in skin and possibly brightly colored. Imagine Triceratops with a frill like a toucan's beak or a mandrill's face. These weren't just battle tanks. They were prehistoric peacocks trying to look fabulous.
Yes, which is fine, which is a good way of depicting ceratopsians, especially Triceratops. They aren't just combat dudes, they are animals.
Look at Ankylosaurs, you know, the dinosaur that looks like a walking tank with club tails. You might think, wow, their heads are completely covered in armor. They probably couldn't smell much with all that bone in the way. I mean, it makes sense. Their entire bodies were covered in armor plates, and their heads look like living battering rams. How good could their noses possibly be? Well, get ready to have your mind blown. CT scans of Ankylosaur skulls show they actually had an amazing sense of smell, possibly one of the best in the dinosaur world.
If this guy doesn't just keep on with all those segments and all that, eventually I'll probably gonna have to review it all the way. So this video is probably going to be like 1 hour and 40 minutes long. It's like 100 minutes long review.
Factory bulbs, which is the brain parts that process smell, were huge compared to the rest of their brain, and their nasal passages, super long and complex with tons of twists and turns inside their skulls.
Okay.
It's like they had a bloodhound's nose inside of a tank's body. This incredible sense of smell probably helped them find food, detect predators from far away, maybe even recognize other ankylosaurs.
Ankylosaur! Ah, man. The pronunciations are still out of control. Clash of Dinosaurs and Ankylosaurus.
Didn't make them sensory deprived at all. It's like how blind people often develop better hearing.
Okay.
That heavily armored, maybe a super sniffer is your evolution and compensation package. But these armor-plated sniffers weren't the only dinosaurs we've been picturing all wrong. Let's dive into some habitat myths that'll make you question every...
Sauropods and hadrosaurs, right? Sauropods and hadrosaurs, they don't have those fancy weaponry like ceratopsian frills, not frills, ceratopsian horns, and ankylosaur club tails and armor.
Seen in Jurassic Park. If you've seen duck-billed dinosaurs in older books or movies, they're almost always shown splashing around in swamps or lakes. They have duck-like bills, so they must be semi-aquatic, right? Scientists...
Lurdusaurus is an ornithopod. Lurdusaurus is an iguanodon that is actually semi-aquatic.
They had webbed feet for swimming, because apparently, if it looks somewhat like a duck, it's gotta be a duck. From the 1800s until the 1960s, everyone assumed hadrosaurs were basically prehistoric swamp ducks. Their flat bills to eat soft water plants and swimming away from predators. It made perfect sense, except it was completely wrong. When scientists finally found hadrosaur mummies, which are fossils with skin impressions, they discovered something shocking. Their hands weren't webbed at all. They had fleshy pads, kind of like what elephants have. Their feet, not duck-like, but with 3 broad hoof-like toes, perfect for walking on land.
Okay.
Even have their footprints to prove it. And
of course, you know, hadrosaurs. Hadrosaurs are incredibly fascinating as well. You know, talking about the herd behaviors, and their anatomy being incredibly successful due to their enhanced stamina from their long caudifemoralis.
Flat duck bills, they contain thousands of teeth packed together into dental batteries, which are grinding machines for tough land plants, not soft water weeds. But the nail in the coffin for the swamp theory, their tails were super stiff. Terrible for swimming, but perfect for balance while walking on 2 legs or running from predators. These weren't swamp ducks, they were the cows of the Cretaceous, grazing their way across plains and forests. Speaking of cows, when we see dinosaur herds in movies, they're always shown acting like elephants or bison, with circles, clear leaders, and complex social behaviors.
In reality, they generally moved in herds, and there isn't really a clear leadership.
But how could we possibly know all of that from fossils? Don't get me wrong, we do have solid evidence that many dinosaurs lived in groups. We found massive bone beds with hundreds of individuals that died together. We have trackways showing multiple animals walking side by side. But that's where the facts end and the imagination begins. This is where it gets interesting. We simply don't have fossil evidence for specific behaviors like protective formations, male versus female roles, or herd leadership. That's all guesswork based on modern animals. What we do know is that many dinosaurs were social. The Egg Mountain site shows dozens of Maiasaura nests close together.
You're not showing Maiasaura, though. That doesn't make any sense. You're just showing Jurassic Park Gallimimus. Ugh. Jurassic Park Gallimimus. It just doesn't make any sense to just Show something that you're definitely not talking about. It's just not good.
Nesting, they nested in colonies. Trackways in Texas and Colorado show sauropods moving in the same direction, sometimes with bigger individuals on the outside. But the details of dinosaur social life, that's still mostly a mystery. We can say they hung out together, but we can't say they had the same social structures as modern African mammals just because it makes for good documentary. It would be like aliens finding a subway station full of human skeletons and concluding we had the same social structure as honeybees.
Man. Well, there isn't that much evidence anyways, but whatchamacallit, dinosaur documentaries, they have to go rely on speculation, alright? So, yeah.
Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Fossils can only tell us so much. So yeah, speaking of things documentaries and movies get wrong about dinosaurs, let's talk about the sounds that haunted your childhood nightmares. You remember that bone-chilling T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park?
Which in reality is just completely and utterly dumb. In reality, most dinosaurs probably roared a bit more like crocodilians. They just go hiss or bellow or something, but not roar like mammals. So, yeah, this is an incredibly common misconception that a lot of people just still fall to this day. Valley of the T-Rex, for example, they used literally raw, unedited bear sounds to depict a Tyrannosaurus roar, which is completely and utterly ridiculous.
Well, that sound kept me and multiple other kids awake for years. But here's the thing, that iconic sound is probably the biggest lie in dinosaur movies. Movie sound designers created those
Biggest lie in dinosaur movies. Haven't you said that T-Rex not being able to detect you when you're not moving was the biggest lie? And this is an even bigger lie, apparently. Man, of course I do come up with stupid titles. A lot of titles have the worst and dumbest in them. Like, I can get clickbaity, of course. I'll have to admit, I can. So, like, criticizing this makes me look like a hypocrite. But, like, this
by mixed
it just slowly just falls apart when I think about it.
lion, alligator, and elephant sounds. But dinosaurs aren't related to mammals. They're related to birds and crocodiles. This is...
Are you saying that alligators are mammals? Why? Why and what? I don't know why. Now we're just 16 minutes away. So, yeah.
This is where it gets fascinating. Scientists studying dinosaur anatomy found no evidence they could roar like lions. They didn't have some kind of voice box, which is called a larynx, that most mammals use.
It's a larynx. It's pronounced a larynx, alright?
Roar. And birds, which are living dinosaurs, use a completely different sound-making organ called larynx.
But you're not showing birds, or even their anatomies. Not even birds in general, just regular old non-avian dinosaurs. It's quite saddening, to be honest. It's just really not good.
So what did T-Rex actually sound like?
More sounded similar to, like, crocodilians in general. Just a bunch of hisses and bellows like them.
Probably more like rumbles and hisses of crocodiles mixed with low-frequency sounds, like emus or cassowaries. That deep, booming sound might be closer to reality. Like some dinosaurs, like the hollow-crested Pterosaur, had built-in sound chambers that probably made loud, low trumpet-like calls. Think...
What is that?
Elephant meets tuba, not lion meets nightmare.
Okay. Solve an issue, but let's just continue.
Lion meets nightmare. Hollywood gave us scary movie monsters. reality gave us something even weirder. Dinosaurs that probably sounded like a bizarre mix of birds and alligators.
I honestly say that they wouldn't sound like birds. Man. Not even dinosaurs don't have that, those vocal cords of the birds. And so there's really not much they can do, really, to sound like actual birds.
Honestly is way cooler than just big lizard roar. You've probably also heard that scientists can tell a dinosaur's age by counting rings in their bones. Just like tree rings. 1 ring equals 1 year, right? Simple math. It's a cool idea, and it's partially true. These rings are called lines of arrested growth, LAGs, and they do form annually when growth slows during tough seasons.
Okay, fair enough, I suppose. 1 hour. Man. Dinosaur lies. Back then they were told to be truths, and they aren't really lies, but like they're just outdated information.
Open a
Like the Pterosaur breathing fire.
leg bone, count the rings, and boom, you know how old it was. But here's the surprising problem. Counting these rings usually gives you the minimum age, not the exact age. Why? Because dinosaurs were constantly remodeling their bones from the inside out, kind of like how we renovate old homes. What do I mean? Well, the earliest rings from when they were babies and toddlers often get completely erased as the bone grows. So T-Rex might show 20 rings, but actually have lived for 28 years.
Makes sense, because T-Rex growth does plateau at some point. So it wouldn't make much sense for the T-Rex to just continue growing.
Those first 8 years, the evidence is gone. But it gets even trickier. Some dinosaurs grew so fast as babies that they didn't form clear rings at all. Others have different ring counts and different bones of the same body. It's like trying to figure out someone's age when they've torn the first few pages out of their diary and scribbled over their birth certificate.
Who even does that? I don't know. Probably kids who don't know any better. Toddlers, I mean. Because, when it comes to kids, they just want to do whatever the frickin' hell they want. And without any restrictions, really. And so, it's really important for good parenting to influence the future of those kids.
Scientists have to become bone detectives, using math and models to estimate the missing years. But now let's leave actual dinosaurs behind and talk about the flying reptiles everyone wrongly calls dinosaurs. And trust me,
They're pterosaurs.
everything you think you know about them is wrong too. When you see pterosaurs, which are those flying reptiles from the dinosaur times, in movies or books, they always have these bat-like leathery wings. They're basically lizards with
Muscle
naked
attachments.
skin stretched between their fingers and body.
Muscle
This
attachments.
image is so common that it's in basically every dinosaur book ever made. It makes sense, right? They're reptiles. Reptiles have scales. Done. But wait, we've got a reality check coming. Exceptionally preserved fossils from Germany and China show that pterosaurs were actually, wait for it, fuzzy.
They're not really feathers. They're more like those pycnofibers. Even Jurassic Fight Club depicted that correctly. Just an unnamed ass dark kid having pycnofibers. That is probably the only super accurate design. Not really super accurate, but like accurate design that Jurassic Fight Club ever made. It's probably as accurate as a paleodoc could ever get when it comes to pterosaurs.
Entire bodies, including their wings, were covered with hair-like structures called cynofibers. That's right, these weren't naked leather wings, but fluffy, fuzzy wing membranes. Think less flying lizard and more like a flying koala. It's like my dog Flapjack. They'd be fuzzy like he is.
Except koalas are mammals, and koalas don't have pycnofibers.
Say hi. These cynofibers weren't exactly the same as mammal hair or bird feathers, but they served similar purposes. insulation, aerodynamics, and possibly display. And they completely change how we should picture these animals. Imagine all those pterosaur toys you had as a kid. Now add fuzzy coating to every single one of them.
Okay. Sure. Oh.
Right, your Jurassic World pterosaur action figure is a lie. It should be fuzzy and cute, not leathery and scary. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're not dangerous. Speaking of pterosaurs, for decades scientists argued about whether pterosaurs, especially the giant ones, could actually fly or just glide from high places.
They probably were able to lift themselves up. Or
I mean, some pterosaurs had wingspans over 30 feet.
none of them over here have. Actually, never mind. There's Archaeopteryx and Archaeopteryx. I misread that.
Wider than many small planes. It seems impossible that something that big could take off from the ground and actively flap those massive wings. The shocking answer is, not only could pterosaurs fly, but they were amazing at it. They weren't just gliders. They were active, powerful flyers that could probably take off from flat ground and fly for extremely long distances. The evidence, it's in their bones. Though hollow like birds, they were incredibly strong. They had massive breastbones, which are called sternums, where powerful flight muscles were attached. Their shoulder joints were perfectly designed for the full range of motion needed for flapping flight.
Alright. We're finally 1 hour into this video. And, yeah, there's... man. There's really nothing to talk about here. This is actually a good portion of the video, alright? This is actually one of the portions of the video where it's actually good.
Even the biggest pterosaurs, like the Quetzalcoatlus, with its school bus size...
Quetzalcoatlus. Man. Pronounce them... Where's the L, man?
wingspan had the proper bone structure for powered flight. They probably used a combination of flapping for takeoff and control, then soaring to conserve energy, like modern albatrosses do. So,
and, stuff, okay. So, there's still a bunch of, debate on what the pterosaur actually hunted. Something like a Archaeopteryx may have been much more terrestrial and hunted a lot more prey items on land as the apex predator of its environment.
where pterosaurs only glide down from cliffs, you can say, actually, these weren't prehistoric hang gliders. They were the most efficient flying machines ever evolved. But if pterosaurs were such incredible flyers, could they really snatch up humans like in the movies?
Yes, they can.
Let's destroy another pterosaur myth you probably believe. Every movie with pterosaurs has that scene. A giant pteranodon or Quetzalcoatlus.
Pteranodon. Now, the thing about this is, actually, the beak here could be a bit exaggerated when it comes to, alright. Quetzalcoatlus, for example, could probably pierce a running human, and then technically grab the human, and then just... But will it have enough power to grab onto a human, though?
Grabs a screaming person with its talons or its beak.
More preferably the beak. The talons are... I don't think the talons will have enough power.
And then carries them off into the sky.
Maybe throw them around. Basically, what I mean is that pterosaurs will probably just throw them around. So, yeah.
Fine, right? It's the perfect movie monster moment. But like most movie monster moments, it's complete nonsense. Here's the truth that ruins the fun. Pterosaurs did not have eagle-like grasping feet. Their feet were built for walking on the ground, not grabbing. Unlike birds of prey with their powerful opposable talons, pterosaurs had weak feet with straightish toes and small claws. Most importantly, they lacked the opposable thumb toe.
And when it comes to grabbing humans, probably only creatures like the Archaeopteryx could do such thing. Smaller pterosaurs like the Elanca, they cannot, alright?
The how?
Not even a Pteranodon can.
that eagles
And Quetzalcoatl is probably debatable. Archaeopteryx probably can, though.
used to create that powerful grip. Large pterosaurs like the Pteranodon would have had a
Pteranodon. Yeah, this is not a pteranodon. Oh my god, brain fart moment. This is not a Pteranodon.
power in their feet as a chicken. Imagine a chicken trying to pick you up. Not very scary, but don't get me wrong, I am a little terrified of chickens. I grew up on a farm and we had chickens as a kid, and chickens are pretty vicious. If you've never had chickens around you before, don't mess with chickens. They might come after you. The largest pterosaurs, like Quetzalcoatl, spent considerable time walking on all fours on the ground, using their wings like front legs. Their feet were built for supporting their weight, not dangling prey beneath them. Sorry, Hollywood, pterosaurs weren't flying kidnappers. If you saw one, you'd have more to fear from its beak than its feet. Speaking of beaks, if you check your old dinosaur
Yeah, beak. The beak would probably be the thing that lifts stuff up. The feet of the pterosaurs, they really aren't designed to just, whatchamacallit, to grab onto stuff like in Hollywood. Hollywood has so many inconsistencies. So, yeah.
or books, chances are the pterosaur labeled Pteranodon has a mouthful of pointy teeth.
Pteranodon, not pterodon. Oh my god. Stop mispronouncing them. Just learn how to pronounce them properly. It's not that hard to do that. Man, not good at all, man.
It makes sense. It's a prehistoric flying reptile, so of course it has scary teeth for catching fish and scaring children. Right? Even some museum displays got this wrong for decades. But here's the fun fact. The name Pteranodon literally means wing without tooth. That's right, the word toothless is built right into its name. Pteranodon had a completely toothless beak, proudly covered with a horny sheath like modern birds. Other pterosaurs, like the Rhamphorhynchus, did
Rhamphorhynchus. 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 I feel like a kindergarten teacher teaching all of this.
teeth,
Man.
which is probably why people get confused.
It's embarrassing.
This toothless bill was perfectly adapted for catching slippery fish from the water. No teeth meant less drag and faster closing speed, which is ideal for a fishing specialist. So every time a movie or toy shows Pteranodon with teeth, they're not just getting a detail wrong, they're literally contradicting the meaning of its scientific name. It's like making a toy bluebird that's bright red. It had one job. But flying reptiles weren't the only prehistoric creatures people constantly confuse with dinosaurs.
They're not dinosaurs. And by the way, this literally shows a Rhamphorhynchia. Why not just say a Rhamphorhynchia instead of Quetzalcoatlus? Archaeopteryx is fine, but like, no, this is not Quetzalcoatlus. This is a Rhamphorhynchia. It's literally showing that in the art. What? This is incredibly confusing, man.
Let's talk about those long-necked sea monsters next. If you've ever seen a picture of plesiosaurs, which are those long-necked marine reptiles, they're almost always shown with their necks arched elegantly out of the water like swans. This swan-like pose is so common, it's basically the standard Loch Ness Monster look, and it seems logical. Why have such a long neck if not to stick it up way out of the water? But here's the neck-breaking truth. Plesiosaurs physically couldn't hold their necks in that swan-like pose. Their neck vertebrae...
Plesiosaurs aren't dinosaurs, but okay. Man. I don't even know what to say at this point. It's just outrageous, man. It's just really, really saddening to see. Oops. Don't mind me. Farted. I'm sad now. I am very sad.
Muscles simply weren't built for it. Studies of their neck bones show that they can move their necks side to side pretty well, but trying to bend it up in that classic swan pose would be like you trying to touch your ear with your shoulder blade. Physically impossible without breaking something. Plus their necks were heavy. Imagine holding a 20-foot pole straight out from your body. Now make it weigh hundreds of pounds. No muscles could keep that position against gravity for more than a few seconds.
We're talking about water physics here. Water physics allows a plesiosaur to be able to hold it up a bit more. If it's on land, then sad.
So what were those super long necks actually for? Probably for sneaking up on fish from below or reaching through crevices, all while keeping their bulky bodies hidden. Think more underwater snake than prehistoric swan. Sorry, Loch Ness Monsters fans, if plesiosaurs somehow survived to modern times, they wouldn't be poking their heads up for tourist photos.
They'll probably briefly do that. Or I have another idea, maybe just tilt their necks as they try and breathe. Let's try and breathe air.
Which sucks, because it's one of my favorite.
I don't really know how to describe it, but like, they probably wouldn't be incredibly just upright when it comes to breathing. They probably just tilt their neck around.
Dinosaurs. It's not actually a dinosaur, it's a marine reptile. Now let's leave the water behind and bust some myths about the world dinosaurs lived in, which wasn't nearly as alien as you might think. Picture a dinosaur habitat. What do you see? Probably ferns, cycads, some weird prehistoric trees, but definitely not grass. Every documentary and textbook tells us grass came later, after the dinosaurs were long gone. For some reason, we got in our heads that dinosaurs did not live when grass was around. If you look at most dinosaur documentaries, you won't see the dinosaurs walking through grass. Well, get ready for a prehistoric lawn makeover. Dinosaurs did live alongside grass. Scientists found
I thought this was a universally known fact. Paleontology-wise, a lot of dinosaurs did coexist with grass. And a lot of grazing herbivores, they had to eat grass. Man, who doesn't even believe that? I don't know.
pollen in fossilized dinosaur poop from the late Cretaceous period. That's right, some of the last dinosaurs to walk the earth were really pooping out grass. Specifically, scientists found
Pooping out grass? It's not so pooping out grass, it's more like digesting grass and then eventually just pooping whatever is left in the large intestines.
remains in Titanosaur coprolites, which is fossilized poop from India, dating to just before the extinction event. Now, it wasn't the vast grasslands we see today. Those did evolve later, but patches of early grasses were definitely part of the dinosaur world. Some titanosaurs, which are the massive long-necked sauropods, were actually grazing on it, kind of like a cow does. So next time you see a dinosaur documentary with absolutely no grass anywhere, you can say, actually, some dinosaurs were literally leaving grass stains on their feet. But enough talking about the big titanosaurs. Let's talk about a little guy.
You're talking about titanosaurs, yet you're showing ceratopsians. Out of nowhere. I don't... man. I just want to give up at this point. I cannot, though, because... man. You know, we're almost at the end now. We're almost at the end of this video. There's really not much to say.
Archaeopteryx is probably the most famous transitional fossil ever found. This crow-sized creature with feathers, wings, and teeth was discovered just 2 years after Darwin published.
Good thing is that this guy didn't call the Archaeopteryx a crow-like dinosaur. Archaeopteryx, sorry. They didn't call the Archaeopteryx. He didn't call the Archaeopteryx a crow-sized dinosaur. He just called it a crow-sized creature, which is fair enough. A crow-sized dinosaur is, well, a crow.
Theory of evolution. For over 150 years, it's been presented either as the missing link between dinosaurs and birds, or from evolution deniers, as a complete hoax with fake feather impressions added to a dinosaur skeleton. Both views can't be right, but guess what? They're both wrong. Here's the fascinating reality. First off, Archaeopteryx is 100% genuine. Multiple specimens exist, all showing the same features. Microscopic examination confirms the feather impressions are authentic and formed at the same time as the bones fossilized. But it's not the direct ancestor of modern birds. It's more like an early side branch of the bird family tree, a cousin to bird ancestors, not your great-great-grandbird. We've now found dozens of other feathered dinosaurs, some more bird-like, some less, showing that the dinosaur to bird transition wasn't a straight line, but a bushy tree with lots of branches.
Sure.
Features like the Microraptor, Anaconornis, and the Spinosopteryx give
Sinosauropteryx and Ichthyornis. Ah, man. Do I have to type them out? Fine then. I'll type them out. Hold up. Ichthyornis. There it is. And as well as that, Sinosauropteryx. Simple, really. There's not much else to say here.
Give us a much more complete picture. Evolution doesn't work like a ladder, with Archaeopteryx as the halfway point between dinosaurs and bird. It's more like a shrub, with Archaeopteryx as just one of the many twigs. A cool one for sure, but it's not the link. Now let's talk about two massive myths about dinosaur extinction and dinosaur size that a lot of people still believe. After the asteroid hit Earth 66 million years ago and wiped out the non-bird dinosaurs, something weird happened in the fossil record. Suddenly, fern spores are everywhere in the rock layers, while other plant pollens nearly disappear.
It's whatchamacallit, it's a natural part of ecology, really. Grass and ferns grow fast, and so they originally dominated the ecosystem after that.
Most books explain this simply. Fern
and it was covered in rocks and all that, so
tough pioneers that quickly took advantage of the cleared landscape. Which, easy explanation, ferns are just naturally tougher than other plants, right? Well, no, there's actually a much cooler story here. This fern spike wasn't just ferns being naturally tough. It represents an entire ecological recovery process that may have lasted thousands of years. After the impact, the world faced a nuclear winter-like scenario. Dust blocking sunlight, acid rain falling, temperatures fluctuating wildly. In this apocalyptic landscape, ferns had specific superpowers. First, they produce massive amounts of tiny spores that travel far on the wind.
When our dinosaur lies, you're now just talking about not dinosaurs. You talked about plesiosaurs, you talked about pterosaurs, and now you're talking about plants.
Perfect for reaching isolated areas. Second, fern spores grow into a tiny, independent plant stage that can survive in horrible conditions. And many ferns had underground stems that could survive even when everything above ground was burning. Scientists even found a fungal spike before the fern spike, which is evidence of widespread death and decay. Then came the ferns, nature's first responders to global disaster. They ruled for 1,000 to 30,000 years before forests could recover. It's not just ferns are tough, it's ferns have the perfect apocalypse survival strategy. So when all of us are long gone, you know who will still be around? That fern in your backyard. Here's probably the strangest myth that I used to believe as a kid. Have you heard this one? Dinosaurs could only get so big because Earth's gravity was weaker back then.
Which is completely and utterly bogus. It's because of oxygen levels and all that, and gigantism as well as that.
Sounds scientific, and it seems to explain how creatures as massive as Argentinosaurus could possibly walk without collapsing. This idea pops up regularly on social media and even in some documentaries. I mean, how else could animals that weighed as much as 10 elephants support themselves?
When it comes to Argentinosaurus, it's more so because of the foot padding that allows it to distribute weight more in a more dispersed manner instead of a more concentrated manner, and so that thing, the Argentinosaurus, was able to survive. Quite the mouthful.
Well, time for some physics reality. Earth's gravity hasn't changed significantly in the last several 100 million years. There's absolutely no evidence or mechanism for how Earth could have lost or gained enough mass to meaningfully change its gravitational pull over dinosaur timescales. The moon's orbit, which is extremely sensitive to Earth's mass, shows no signs of major gravitational changes during this period. If gravity had been significantly weaker, it would have affected everything, not just the dinosaurs. So that leaves the question, how did dinosaurs get so massive? Well, it's through incredible biological adaptations. Their bones were full of air spaces, making them lighter without sacrificing strength. Their breathing system, like modern birds, was super efficient. Their pillar-like legs, positioned directly under their bodies, could support tremendous weight.
Yes.
The dinosaur footprints show that they walked at speeds consistent with our current gravity, not the slow-motion movement you'd expect if gravity suddenly increased after their time. Dinosaurs weren't aliens benefiting from weird physics. They were
actual real animals that existed back then, and so, yeah.
Biological marvels that evolved perfect solutions for growing massive under the exact same gravity we experience today. So you have it, a bunch of dinosaur myths completely destroyed by science. Honestly, if there's anything I learned from this video, it's that the truth is even more strange than fiction. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, I want you to like and subscribe to the channel, so I talk a lot about dinosaurs and dinosaurs from movies on this channel a ton.
From what I remember, this channel is known for its constant amount of misinformation and fact yapping. So, yeah, I suggest you not give this guy attention. So, yeah, some of this guy's videos are incredibly misleading. Even in 2025, man, it's just, a lot of them, they just don't hold up. So, there's really not much to say here. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all in the next video. Special thanks to channel members for supporting this channel. It helps out a ton.